All right, so good evening and welcome everyone. Geshe, I would like to begin by reminding all of us that we have obtained the precious human rebirth that is characterized by the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments. We have all heard about the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments. So having many times, so we don't need to elaborate them here, but having obtained such a precious human rebirth with all the freedoms and the endowments, it is very important that we make the best out of this opportunity and we do not let it go to waste. Because if we let this go to waste, it will be a great pity and in a sense, a great loss. So we know that this type of rebirth that we have found this time is extremely rare to find. And this can be proven from the point of view of the causes, from the point of view of examples, or from the point of view of numbers and statistics. So having found this rebirth in this time, it is almost like having a reprieve, having a bit of a break. And the reason why we say this is because in most of our rebirths, we take rebirths in unfortunate situations. So now somehow we have escaped these oppressive situations and we are reborn with this precious human rebirth. So we need to emphasize here that this is not just a human rebirth, but it is a human rebirth in which we have the opportunity to practice Dharma. And this is something which is very rare, even within the human rebirths. Now, there are some people who practice Dharma, and there are people who do not practice Dharma. And those who do not practice Dharma are the majority. So those who practice Dharma are in the minority. And if you consider yourself, like in Singapore, just if you localize it in Singapore, how many people live in Singapore? But then from amongst all these people, who has the opportunity, who has the time to practice Dharma? There are quite a lot of people who are merely consumed every day in the everyday struggle just to make enough to sustain themselves, isn't it? But here we are in this class, we have the opportunity to come and listen to the Dharma, to practice Dharma, and so forth. So consider how rare the opportunity is, what an advantage you have, and make sure you do not let this go into waste. So we say it is important, we have this opportunity to practice Dharma, but actually it is impossible that we practice all Dharma. There are many practices, right? So even if we had the capacity to practice it all, our time would not we wouldn't have enough time. So that means that for whatever time we have, whatever Dharma we practice, we must practice it properly. So good quality practice. Right? Good quality practice of Dharma. So therefore, Geshe is saying, make sure that you adjust your motivation properly here. So be determined, like make the promise to yourself, I'm not going to waste this opportunity. So with the right motivation, just prepare yourself for the class. All right, so we are examining the group of 11 virtuous mental factors. From those, we have fully presented faith. And last time we started discussing shame. And we said shame is a sense of restrain for one's own sake due to committing offensive acts. So it acts there to support proper restraint from negative actions. There are different types of negative actions of our body, of our speech, our mind. So, for example, negative actions of our speech is speaking in foul language or aggressive manner or saying all sorts of negative things. Offensive or negative activities of the body, they can take many expressions. And similarly, negative activities of the mind is like all sorts of negative thoughts, bad things that we can contemplate. So as we say here, in terms of the shame, we have a sense of restraint, thinking, I will not do it. If I were to act in this way, that would be a fault for me. And if I engage in this type of activity in the future, I would have to experience the maturational result of that. And furthermore, if I act in this way, I will displease my gurus, my yidam, my protectors, and so forth. So displease here, it means I will make them unhappy. So you know how we say with the Buddhas, for example, that if you cause harm to one sentient being, that causes the Buddhas to be unhappy, displeased, isn't it? So it's a situation like this. You consider all this and you say, for my own sake, I will not do this. So we have seen number 2, which is shame, and we come to number 3, which is embarrassment. Shame and embarrassment are quite similar in the sense that they act there to restrain us from negative actions. However, they are motivated from a different perspective, because we have seen that in the case of shame, you do it for your own sake. Right? However, we will see that for embarrassment, again, what is embarrassment? We can say embarrassment is the sense of shying away for others' sake due to committing offensive acts, and it functions to support proper restraint from negative actions. So again, it does the same thing. It restrains you from engaging negative actions of your body, your speech, and your mind. So shame is you restrain yourself by thinking it's not appropriate from my side to do this. In terms of embarrassment, you say, what will others say if I were to behave in this way? So you're thinking that others will speak badly of you, others will criticize you, they will be shocked, and so on and so forth. And not wishing to confront that, you restrain from negative activities. However, as it was before, the main thing here is you consider what will be the maturational result for myself that I will have to experience if I were to engage in this action. So the maturational result of any negative action will be suffering, and I don't need any more suffering. Okay, so basically you restrain yourself, whether you restrain yourself in terms of shame or whether you restrain yourself in terms of embarrassment. Geshe is saying, I urge you to actually rely upon both of them. It's very important. You see that people who don't have a sense of embarrassment, they have no sense of restrain, and especially social restraint, right? It's like, I don't care what they think of me. I don't care what they will, if they criticize, I don't care what they will say. I will do whatever I want to do. Okay, so people who lack a sense of embarrassment, they lack inhibition. And when you lack inhibition, you actually might engage in all sorts of things. So what is the result of all this, right? It's not that the Buddhas will be angry. The Buddhas have no anger in their continuum. The real loss is something that we experience. We will experience an incredible sense of loss because the result of this uninhibited behavior, letting ourselves go into negative areas in terms of activities of body, speech, and mind, is suffering. So we will have to experience suffering, let's say, in an animal rebirth, in a hungry ghost rebirth, in a hell rebirth. And the suffering there in all of those realms of existence is extremely difficult to bear. It's very heavy. It's very difficult to tolerate. So you don't want to end up in a situation like this. The loss is 100% ours, right? So to save ourselves, all this trouble and all this suffering that will come as a maturational result from negative behavior, it is very good to restrain ourselves, either with a sense of shame or with the sense of embarrassment. So we say that for both of those mental factors, shame and embarrassment, they have the common feature of making you to shy away from negativity. And this expression here, shy away, it means you decide that you rather stay away from it, you rather avoid it. Like, for example, when you come towards the edge of a cliff, there is a sense of restraint. There is something that is telling you, oh, I shouldn't walk in that direction. I should walk away from it. I should avoid this area. So it is very important that we have that sense of restraint. And we mention that one of the things that we consider is that if we were to engage in this negative behavior, we would upset and disappoint the mind of our lamas, our root teachers, and even our main teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. So how is this? How does this apply to us? So first of all, we are Buddhist, and since we are Buddhist, we are followers of Buddha Shakyamuni. And if you say, I am a follower of this particular teacher, obviously that means that you are receiving benefit through all the instructions and the teachings. However, the person who directly imparts the advice and the instructions and will help you generate all the qualities of realization is your root guru. So you don't want to behave in a way that will disappoint your root guru. Your root guru is extremely kind to you because he's imparting and sharing with you all this advice and instructions. So actually you would lose out if you were to disappoint the mind of the teacher. It's not the teacher that is losing. So you're on the losing end. Okay. So you see that for us who are Buddhists and who have a root guru, this is a very important point. And actually having this sense of shame and embarrassment, it becomes, is very close to the heart. There's no other way to describe it. And it's very interesting because you can, as we say, there are people who follow Dharma and there are people who don't follow Dharma. So if you try to come up with this argument towards people who are not Buddhist, who do not have a root Lama, and say, oh, you should not behave in this way because you will disappoint, cause disappointment in the mind of the guru. They don't have a guru, so that is not necessarily an argument that applies to them, but it applies to us. It's very relevant to us, and it's very important for us, right? So we have to consider that for myself, if I behaved in this way, I will make things very difficult for myself in terms of the maturational results that I will have to face up. So we all need to rely on this shame and embarrassment in order to restrain ourselves. But you see, even if we don't look at it from the point of view of Dharma, in society in general, there is that sense of what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. And you hear people, criticize certain members of the society and say, oh, look at how this person is behaving, right? They are just like they put themselves above everybody else. They are unrestrained. They do whatever they like. They never have any consideration. They don't have a sense of shame. We use these expressions, right? So if you are in society, if you want to belong within a society, you must find a way of restraining yourself. You cannot just have an unrestrained behavior. This is not how it works, right? So if you behave in a totally inappropriate way where you don't take into consideration what is the norm within society, you will see that eventually people will push you away and you find yourself at the edge, or even, they will push you completely out of the circle of that society. So definitely shame and embarrassment are very critical mental factors to rely upon. So it is very important that we rely upon shame and embarrassment in order to restrain ourselves. It is very important that we shy away, that we are, because we are aware of all the maturational results of suffering that will follow, and because we are aware that we will cause great disappointment in the mind of our root gurus and our teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. It is due to the kindness of our teachers that we have come to understand those things. It is due to the kindness of the teacher who has taken the time to explain to us that there are maturational results that follow from this and this action, isn't it? So, and it is due to the fact that we have a relationship with the spiritual teacher that we have this consideration, and we say, oh, this teacher is so kind to me, so I would not want to disappoint their mind, right? It is exactly due to the kindness of this relationship, the existence of this relationship, that we have this advantage. It is an advantage to know about maturational result. It is an advantage to have that sense that says, I do not want to disappoint their mind. There are many people who are ruined because they have no sense of shame, they have no sense of embarrassment, and they don't have this because they don't know about maturational results and because they don't have a relationship with a guru. And actually, you hear these people say, oh, I'm uninhibited, I can do what I like, I'm free, I'm careless, I'm happy. This is what they say, but in reality, these people experience a lot of suffering. We know the maturational results, the negative results that come if you do not restrain yourself, right? So keeping in mind that we are different due to the kindness of our gurus. We have come to understand about maturational result. Due to the kindness of the Buddha, we have come to understand this. We're very fortunate that we have a connection with the Guru. So since we are different, we should also behave in a different way than these other people who are ignorant. These other people don't know. They don't know any better. And this is why they're totally unrestrained. No sense of shame, no sense of embarrassment. They do whatever they like. But we are, in a sense, educated in a different way, we should behave in an appropriate, restrained manner, isn't it? Okay, so it is important to keep in mind here that there are so many people out there, they know nothing about maturational results. Actually, they don't even accept that there are future lives, all right? So for them, this is not a consideration. But the thing is that future lives exists, maturational results exists, and we are in a privileged position to have been educated about those things. So if knowing that those things exist, right? If knowingly we engage in negative actions, knowingly we do not restrain ourselves, we are actually worse than them. At least they don't know, they have ignorance, right? Ignorance is their excuse. They behave in this way because they don't know. But we know, and when we know, if we don't restrain ourselves, we are far worse than what they are, okay? So this is a very important point. As Buddhists, us who have a relationship with the teacher, us who have received teachings about those things, we have to behave better. We have to restrain ourselves. So restrain negativity through shame and embarrassment. This is a really important point. So in the text, there is this discussion about what is the door that leads to faults. And there are different doors that can lead to mistakes, but one of them is ignorance. So they say ignorance is the door leading to mistakes. All right. But the thing that in our case is that we know we are not ignorant. We have knowledge on our side. So when we engage negative activity, we do it knowingly. So actually our case is worse than everybody else because we do it knowingly. So we mention this here because it indicates how important knowledge is, right? So all of us, we have this advantage of knowledge, but having the knowledge is not enough. Having the knowledge, then we have to implement that thing. We have to engage it. We have to put it into practice. So we have to use shame and embarrassment. We have to utilize shame and embarrassment. Otherwise, we fall in this category of having something, but not putting it into use, having it, but not relying on it. So there's no advantage, there's no benefit of having it if you don't put it into use. So knowledge is very important, but having the knowledge, we have to implement it. We have to apply it. It's a multiple question, like there are many questions in it, sub-questions. Okay, first question. Did you understand these two mental factors, shame and embarrassment? If you didn't understand it, please speak up. Please say, I didn't understand it. Did you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And the Beju redu, you are reduced that you was Shaya redu, Beju reduce.
Second question, is it useful or useless? Is it something we should keep or throw away? So you're not telling me right now, today, I will keep it, I will use it, and then tomorrow you're going to throw it away, are you? So Geshe says, I have to ask you this, like, please use it, please rely upon it as much as you can. Of course, we are, ideally, we should be employing them all the time, but obviously we are beginners and this is difficult. Sometimes we forget, sometimes we rely, sometimes not. But Geshe said, please use it as much as you can. You have come to understand the role of shame and embarrassment, the importance of shame and embarrassment. So please have mindfulness and try to remember to use them as much as possible. Okay, we move into the next one, number 4, which is non-attachment. All right, so what is non-attachment? Non-attachment is not being attached to existence and the possessions of existence. All right, so as you can see, the term is just one word, non-attachment. So obviously, because we have the negation in front of it, right? It is explained as not being attached. So you have desire, not desire. You have attachment, not being non-attachment or not being attached. Not being attached here with regards to two things. One is existence, and the other one is the possessions of existence. So the first one, existence, refers to cyclic existence and all the qualities of cyclic existence. There are qualities in cyclic existence because we have forms we have forms, we have sounds, we have smells, we have tastes, and we have tactile objects. And you can have beautiful forms. You can have melodious sounds. You can have very pleasant perfume. You can have very tasty tastes, delicious tastes, and you can have very soft tactile objects. So these are qualities of samsara, and we become attached to those things. So attached to samsara and the qualities of samsara. And the second one is the possessions. Possessions is all this stuff that we have in any samsaric abode. So to understand this, from the moment we wake up in the morning and we open up our eyes, or during the duration of the day until we close our eyes when we fall asleep at night, during this time, we are busy and we are active, chasing after these various objects, this stuff, samsaric objects, isn't it? But the thing is, the reason why we chase those things, and actually every movement that we do, right? Like every movement you do with any muscle of your body is for the sake of obtaining those things. Why do we chase after those things? Because we think that they will give us pleasure, isn't it? However, we never, although we keep chasing this pleasure by chasing these objects, we never get the pleasure or the happiness or the satisfaction according to our wish. And the reason for that is that we mistake suffering for pleasure. So we keep holding on to things that we think they're going to give us pleasure, but actually they give us suffering. Why does this happen? This happens because we engage these objects, or we engage these activities due to attachment. And attachment itself is a mistaken mind. A mistaken mind means that when we look at things due to attachment, we don't see things as they are. We see them differently, right? We don't see them accurately. So by following this attachment, hoping that it will give us pleasure, we end up with all sorts of trouble and suffering and misery and unsatisfaction, right? So the best way to operate is without attachment, whereas presently we operate through attachment. Everything we do, we engage through attachment. All right, so the thing is that up to here in our life, we have done a lot of movement. We have moved a lot of muscles in order to, out of attachment, in order to get pleasure and happiness. But we haven't got this. When people ask you, how are you? How are you doing? You say, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. This is what we say. But inside you, you know how much dissatisfaction there is. You know how much disappointment you have, that things are not the way that you wanted them to be. And why is this situation? It is because we engage through attachment. Gisela di amdo gendun
chumbe
okay.
Amdo gendun chumbe gi simbu kangme.
Los.
Oh yeah.
So okay, there is a Namdo Lama, Gendun Chompel, who said this. The caterpillar who is legless is running towards pleasure, and humans also, they run and speed towards pleasure. They speed from one to the next. But do they ever come to know pleasure? No, because they speed due to attachment. All right. So first of all, he's talking about like a worm or a caterpillar that doesn't even have legs. And it says it moves, and it moves in a particular direction, seeking pleasure. And just as this legless animal moves due to attachment, seeking pleasure, so do the humans move and speed and walk towards a certain direction due to attachment. And here's this expression where it says they speed from one to the next. And Geshe was saying, look at us, you know, we go from you ride a motorbike because you are chasing something. You get into the taxi because you're chasing something. You get into the airplane because you're chasing something. And you need that speed to get closer to whatever is the object that you are chasing, because due to your attachment, you think that this will get you into pleasure. So we have that need for speed, trying to get closer to as we chase the object of attachment. But we're never going to find that satisfaction. We're never going to find that pleasure, because actually what motivates us to move so quickly towards that from one object to the next is attachment, which is wrong awareness. Wrong awareness means that we do not engage, or we do not see the object accurately. We do not see it as it is. So we perceive the object as being very pleasant, but by perceiving the object is pleasant, there is a great deal of exaggeration and elaboration. So Geshe was saying, I will give you an example here with the mug I have. So my mug is the red mug, and I'm looking at it, and I think it's like the most beautiful mug ever. Like, look at the shape, look at the color, and if you put water in it, the water will stay hot. And I think it's the most beautiful mug one could have. So what is happening here? There is inappropriate attention that is exaggerating the qualities of the object and does not allow me to see any fault in that object. So this is what attachment is doing, this exaggeration. So if truly the mug had all these good qualities, as I perceive it in that state of attachment, then anyone who would see the mug would have to absolutely recognize and agree with me that this is the perfect mug, right? The best shape, the best color, the best qualities ever. Geshe said I started here with the example of the mug, but it is useful to move into other examples, like, you know, the person that you like. The person that you like has the best body, has the most beautiful eyes, has the best nose, is the most clever and tender person that is completely full of every conceivable quality. There is no fault to be seen in that person. And when you are in the company of this person, even stale bread tastes so good, and even a humble tea tastes even better, isn't it? This person is better than anybody else you have ever seen. Is full of good qualities. So who is giving this description of this person, right? It is the inappropriate attention that, as you can see here, is exaggerating the good qualities, is not registering any fault, and is increasing attachment. Okay, so the thing is that the important thing is that here, when we understand non-attachment, to see the benefit of engaging in activities without attachment. So if we were able to have non-attachment, means we would have no longing. There will be absence of longing for the different objects, almost like renunciation. So remember that the attachment that we generate is for samsara, the qualities of samsara, and all the objects that we have within samsara. So if you can avoid having longing, desire for these objects, it's as if you have detached yourself. So you have that sense of renunciation, all right? So obviously, at present, we have the opposite of this. We have very strong desire. We have very strong attachment. Actually, we have longing for samsara. Anything samsaric, we want it, right? And if you want it, if you crave for it, if you long for it, you are not going to have the intention to leave it behind. So there will be no mind of renunciation, and therefore it will not be possible to obtain the state of liberation and so forth. We have no wish to exit. We have longing for samsara itself, right? So actually, from compared to other afflictions, attachment is worse, because attachment is there with us from the moment that we open up our eyes in the morning until the moment that we close our eyes. So it's like a long-lasting friend. And it's a very long-lasting friendship. So you wake up in the morning and the first thing that you think is like, oh, I need to have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, whatever you drink, right? Actually, it is a thought of attachment, right? And then the whole breakfast things come, and then you need to dress up, and then you need to go and work. I need to go and work and make money because I want to have this and this. I want to buy this and this object. And then after some hours of work, oh, now I need to have lunch. All of those thoughts are thoughts that come from attachment. So it just motivates from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. All our conscious hours, we are operating are after attachment. So if you say that I want to get rid of attachment or I want to stop attachment, this is something extremely difficult. To get rid of anger or to stop anger is much easier. So in the text, they make this analogy and they say attachment is very difficult to remove because it is like oil that has seeped into a piece of cloth. So they say you can have oil that falls, let's say, on a plate. That's quite easy to clean. And you can have oil, just one drop of oil that falls into a piece of cloth. And what happens is that the oil actually spreads, and after a while it permeates all the fibers of that cloth. So this is what is happening with attachment with us. Attachment has been with us for a very long time, and it has gone down to the very fabric of our existence. So now you know, if you have an oily piece of cloth, it takes incredible effort to try and wash it, all right? So non-attachment is what we need to rely upon because it functions to support not engaging in negative activities. So it's very difficult to completely abandon attachment. However, we do have some means and methods to stop it, at least temporarily try to put a lid on it. So there is one meditation, which is meditation on skeletons, bones and skeletons. So if there is a particular object that you are greatly attached to it, you meditate on it in the aspect of the skeleton. So there's very little attachment for a skeleton, so that should help. There is other type of attachment that is not for inanimate objects, is attachment towards the opposite sex. And so it starts from a very young age. So little girls like little boys, and vice versa. Adults, males and females, they like each other. And even at the old age, males and females, whatever is your orientation, you will have attraction for someone. So in that case, there is the meditation of impurities. So the way that we meditate is that we recognize that within our own body, we have 36 impure, unclean substances. So you imagine that your body is completely filled with those filthy, unclean substances. So we have urine, we have phlegm, we have pus, we have blood. Think about different liquids, right, within the body, that they're all unclean. It's a detailed meditation, 36 of them. So you meditate thinking my own body is filled with those, and the body of this other person I'm lasting after is also completely filled with those. And that helps to temporarily stop or somehow minimize attachment. To completely get rid of attachment, it's a different type of work. We have to do meditation on the path that will take much longer time. So these are just temporary measures. So I guess I was saying, I have explained to you how attachment is generated. So it's important to explain how you stop it as well. You could say that in brief, you should have this attitude, whatever is the object, look at this object, thinking that it's pointless, it's useless, it has no essence. Because the usual way that we look at objects is like, oh, this is valuable, this is so nice, this is so useful. So just do the opposite. This is useless. This is pointless. We continue with the next one, number 5, which is non-aversion. So aversion here indicates anger. So in other words, we're talking about lack of anger. So it's so what is non-aversion? It means to be free from any malevolent attitude to sentient beings, to suffering, and to sources of suffering. Okay, so we have a few things to explain here. Non-aversion. So aversion, for the word for aversion or for the word for anger, we have the Tibetan word shedang, and the she means something which is very deep from inside. It comes from inside. So often with anger, we feel, even in English, we say, I can feel anger rising. So it comes from within us. It comes up, right? So it's from within. There is this expression in Tibetan where it says, the direct translation here, like your mouth and your insides should not be two different things. So when it says your mouth, it talks about what is directly observable. And what is your inside means, your inner thoughts or what is really inside you. So these two things, the way you act and the way that you really think, should not be two different things, right? So I suppose in English we say you should walk the talk or something like this. Okay. Anyway, so the thing with anger here, right? We describe it as being free from a malevolent attitude towards sentient beings or suffering or the sources of our suffering. So the other thing we have to explain here is the malevolent attitude. Malevolent attitude means having the mind that wishes to cause harm. Okay, so anger comes with a wish to cause harm to others, to sentient beings, right? So when we generate anger, usually we go through a process, and there are 9 causes that we rely upon in order to generate anger. The first 3 causes have to do with how others behave in relation to myself and, let's say, to my relatives or my friends, those who are on my side. So we say, in the past, that person or that other group harmed me or us, harmed me. At present, they are harming me, or in the future, I know they are planning to harm me. So any of those three becomes the cause to generate anger. So those were the first three. The next group of three, again, in terms of past, present, and future, has to do with my wealth, my possession, my things. So that person has harmed in the past my things, or is currently causing harm to my things, or in the future, they are planning to steal away or cause harm to my things. So up to now, 3 plus 3 makes 6. So the last three have to do with my enemy. So this person in the past benefited and supported my enemy, currently is benefiting my enemy, and I know that in the future they are planning to help my enemy. So altogether, 9 reasons for developing this malevolent attitude that wishes to cause harm to others. So if you think about it, there are so many drawbacks in terms of anger. Anger is really horrible. So here tonight we're discussing non-aversion, meaning non-anger. So it means you are free from any of those 9 reasons that can give rise to this intention to cause harm to others. Otherwise, if we were to talk about the faults of things like attachment or the faults of anger, there's a very long list of those things. However, later on in the presentation of mental factors, right now we're doing virtuous mental factors, right? So we're doing the non-aversion. Later on, when we come to negative mental factors, there is the list of all those things, anger and attachment and hatred. So there will be the opportunity to speak about the faults at that time. Here, we're talking about the benefits of not having anger. Okay, so we will stop here for tonight.